excited to dive into this topic for self-storage. And it looks like we have everybody here, so let's get started. I think the first question we can address is who is this guy, and why should we care what he has to say about SEO? So I'll dive in a little bit about myself. I'm currently the CMO of AdVarank, but prior to that, really for 20 years of my career, I've always been in digital marketing and developed really an expertise in that SEO space as part of really just search marketing and digital marketing. It's such an important piece to any digital strategy in any industry, right? We all know Google and search is a big piece of that. So I've been in consulting roles for SEO, from everything from really big name brand e-commerce brands to even just local golf courses and different size sites like that. So I've had a variety of different experiences, a variety of different clients throughout my experience. So I'm happy to share some of the insights hopefully I've learned throughout that career. One of those people that I consulted actually was the founders of AdVarank, and this was back in 2017. So which is further back than I thought it was when I was kind of thinking through this. But the Jasons of AdVarank that helped found that were they actually had a customer that was in the self-storage industry, and they were consulting through their website and digital strategy, and the big problem they were trying to solve was around the actual paid Google ads for that customer. So I was consulting them on that front, helping them, connect the dots, do some budget optimization. We were doing a lot of things in spreadsheets and algorithms and trying to figure that all out. So that's kind of how I was introduced to self-storage, was back in 2017, and introduced to what AdVarank was doing even back then. Was always watching them, kind of rooting for them as I was, in my role as a consultant. And I was actually at a startup at the time doing SEO and working with people on their SEO. I actually was working with AdVarank on their SEO as well. So I've known AdVarank for a while, known kind of the challenge they were trying to solve with the self-storage space, and actually joined them back in June full-time as their CMO. So it's been a fun journey to kind of be introduced to self-storage, but my expertise has always been in that SEO space, but now I'm kind of switching more into that paid marketing space, right? And more of the general marketing and how we can help self-storage operators. So today we're going to focus on that 800-pound gorilla of SEO, right? It's a big thing. Everyone knows it's important. Everyone knows a little bit about it. They probably heard read different blog posts or heard things on podcasts and tried to apply it to their business. It's always been a challenge. That's the part that sucks. And there's a lot of things specific to the self-storage industry that are either myths or things that are difficult, or maybe just, they just really aren't fun to try to figure out. And that's kind of what we're going to talk through on the left. What's unique about self-storage and the SEO tactics that work and don't work. And then ultimately, you can see on the right there, those are the things we're going to help you figure out. If we're not just going to tell you about why SEO sucks, we're also going to tell you what you can do, practically to focus on, instead of, getting kind of caught in that vague world of SEO. Like I said, we probably have various folks on here with various levels of experience in SEO. So wanted to start out here and just say, let's just agree on what SEO is. So anytime someone does a search, there's going to be a results page for that search that we call a search engine result page, or SERP for short. So if you ever hear someone say SERP, they're just saying that kind of view or list that we've all been accustomed to seeing when you're doing a Google search and seeing those results. And SEO is the art and science of showing up in that list for the keywords that you want to show up for. So when people do that search for self-storage, how do I show up when that happens? And specifically, SEO is focused on those areas of that page that are the organic or free positions. So you're not getting charged for each individual click. You're doing all the things you can to give yourself the best opportunity and the best chance to show up when someone's doing that type of search. and we can look at that, what that search page looks like. And it's always changing, and it's always something that is going to be moving. But what we do know is Google is always going to prioritize that paid space at the top. So when you're doing a search, you're going to see first the list of those paid positions, and that is where the majority of the vast, substantial amount of clicks happen. And Google has designed it that way, right? That's how they make their income. That's how they make their huge amounts of revenue, is they know people are going to click on what comes up first. And so when you type in a search word, you're going to first get served with those ads. If you're looking specifically at what a search result page might look like for self-storage, you're going to have map results in there as well, which is kind of a different set of factors and algorithms that decide who shows up in the map listing based on your individual location. You might have some more results underneath that, maybe some reviews and other snippets. And then you're going to get into what are those organic positions. That's what SEO is kind of focused on, is fighting for that piece of real estate there that says organic. Oftentimes that can be halfway down the page. So it's important to kind of look at, when you're doing those types of search results and fighting for something like SEO, you have over 200 factors to consider. So it's a long list of things to think through. This can be everything from site speed to how other pages link to you, the words you use on your page, title tags, site maps. It's a very long list, and we don't know exactly how much weight Google puts into one thing over the other. We just know it's a lot of ingredients that they use to consider who deserves to show up for each one of these keywords. What page is more popular than others? What page has the most in-depth content? What page has all the right words that align with how someone is searching? And so it uses that information and all the stuff that's being set up with your technical site, the things that are happening, on the page itself, and how that relates to other sites that might be related to that topic, to determine who ranks. But it's also using something called RankBrain, and this is something newer that Google has used to accelerate and improve its search results over time. And that's where you start to get into that machine learning and some of those capabilities that are looking at actual user behavior to determine, okay, if people are clicking on this, it deserves to be higher. If people are not clicking on it, we should lower it. If people aren't spending time, there's all those feedback loops that are feeding this large kind of machine learning AI algorithm to help determine that. And that has become one of the more important signals in Google's ranking algorithm, currently kind of in the third most important ranking signal. And it's also one of those things that's even harder to figure out, right? So when we're looking at SEO as a practice, there's no wonder it takes a consultant to guide you through it, right? Because you have to look at all these things, you have to understand and make your best guess at how Google is working currently. And with the introduction of stuff like machine learning, they're just accelerating and improving those results constantly. It's in the past it was a little bit slower. They would make big announcements on their algorithm and things that they've changed. Now it's happening all the time, and it makes it even more difficult to kind of figure out and know what's working and what's not. But it's one of those things where people have always done it because search is really important, and in some industries it's even more critical. We all know that search is going to be part of that user journey. It might be even the first start of, hey, I know I have storage needs. I'm going to go and do that search and see who's near me, or I'm going to see what my best options are locally. So the part that sucks, particularly for self-storage, is that type of search behavior is very limited in the variety of terms that are being used. If you look at the top 10 search terms by volume in the United States, and this is an average monthly volume, we got this, you can get this information from Google. You can see even those top 8 are really just the same thing, worded differently. They're looking at it, might say facility or units or near me or until you get into those more specific things like climate controlled boat, maybe RV, some of the other ones that have a little bit lower volume. Google's really going to rank all of these things for the same thing. So when you have a lot of people competing for a little bit amount of words, that makes it really difficult to rank well. If we look more at like who's winning that, it's going to be something like the reach. So this is what makes SEO pretty difficult for self-storage. Is not only are you competing for a limited piece of real estate and in a market that is, and you're dealing with something like Google that's always changing and evolving, you also have to go up against some of the bigger players that have not only huge sites and huge reaches nationally, but they also have something called a backlink profile that puts them ahead of you as well. So one of the major things that Google looks at when it's considering who's a more popular site or who deserves to rank more than someone else, they're going to look at not only the site you have itself, but are other people on the internet, other websites linking back to you? And if so, they're going to give them kind of an advantage or what's called authority in saying, well, all these other people say this is a good site, so we should trust those signals and we should rank them ahead of somebody that may have less links. So a common SEO service you might buy is something like someone that goes out and builds those links for you. Well, the hard part is you're going to be going up against some of these REITs, and we're able to look at how many backlinks they might have currently and how many pages they might have out there that are ranking well. We used a tool called SEMrush or SEMrush. SEM is short for search engine marketing, which is kind of a larger umbrella. SEO would be more of a sub tactic underneath SEM. SEM would be more a combination of your SEO and your Google ads. So just looking at that entire page itself and making sure you're showing up for those individual words you want with a combination of those tactics. But you can see here, uhaul.com has 1.2 million links back to its site from 35,000 different domains. So that's a pretty big, almost impossible to catch up to, right? If you're a mid-size or small operator and you're paying somebody to go out and build links thinking you're going to get anywhere close to this, it's a tough battle. So they already have this advantage, right? They also have, you can see at the very top there, uhaul.com, that domain has over 350,000 different pages on its site. So that bigness combined with all those people linking to it, you have this big competitor that you're trying to outrank. But as U-Haul or some of these other REITs start to add content to their sites, they're just already way ahead of you. They're able to piggyback off of that existing domain authority and off that existing size and trust signals and be able to rank for some of those maybe softer terms, like even the categories and things like truck rentals, or if you want to learn about trailer hitches or climate controlled storage, just as a topic, those pages, those content, all the things that they're going to do, they're just way out ahead in terms of an advantage. Let's look at another one. We'll look at Extra Space. They even have even more, 4.6 million backlinks from 28,000 different sites. So that kind of data makes it really, a pretty robust link profile. Again, this is kind of showing you like, hey, if you're paying someone to build you links, it's almost impossible to overtake some of these larger people. If you look at the types of content that's ranking for them, you can see those individual facility pages, which is a good thing, right? I would encourage anyone that has a website to make sure you have individual location pages. We're going to go into that a little bit more here later. But if you're writing blog posts too about like how much is storage and packing tips and things like that, it's just a really big uphill battle, because you're going to be creating content. You're going to start to go up not only against these REITs, but every other blog out there, every other person that's writing anything about packing or how to pack this or how to store that. You're going up against a lot of competition for a small amount of words, and that's just what makes SEO sucks and self-storage is all that competition. So And on this slide, I really wanted to talk about some of the things that, why are we doing this webinar, and why it kind of came out of a question as I was talking with others in the industry, is like, why is there such an emphasis on this? It seems like it'd be very difficult to do. It seems like most people are paying some sort of monthly fee to do SEO over and over again. And I was kind of struggling to understand. I was going to a lot of conferences last year, even conducting some roundtables, where the biggest question, I heard a lot of times was, I'm paying for SEO, I got to keep doing it. And I was kind of like, well, what are you getting from that? And a lot of people didn't understand exactly what the services they were buying, or should they keep doing it or stop doing it. And they've had really good success in the past with it, so they just had to keep doing it. And so as I started thinking about that, like, why is SEO so emphasized, and in my opinion, overemphasized in this self-storage industry? And I think it has to do with, past history and some things that did work early on in the evolution of bringing inventory online and the checkout ability online, and really turning self-storage into, those websites into e-commerce sites. Very similar experience I had as a SEO consultant working with large e-commerce sites, or any e-commerce site back in those early days. The biggest thing that those companies and those websites focused on was making sure the site worked, right? And that's kind of the first iteration of when you're bringing anything online. It has to function correctly. It has to take the credit card, it has to have the forms, has to show them available inventory. So that was a big lift for a lot of these e-commerce brands, and I'm sure it was the same for self-storage operators going online for the first time, making sure those things were accurate. And so a lot of times developers focused on just the functionality and not necessarily on the discoverability or the SEO setup of that, and which is what I did early in my career and continued to later on, was helping sites evolve from that. Maybe that they just had that one homepage with a search bar, and you put in where you were, and it gave you those. It didn't change the URL at all. It just kind of gave you the results, which functionally worked really well. But Google, trying to understand which page should I rank for Oklahoma, and which page should I rank in Florida, and which page should I rank in Massachusetts, right? It's not going to rank the homepage for all of those things. It had to figure, it was a better setup to move from kind of one page that had a bunch of dynamic results to it, to fleshing out that site to have more categories and location pages and unique URLs, so that Google could crawl it effectively, understand which page was about which location, and serve it up appropriately to each search that was happening within that area. So if you were to go from that kind of first level to that second level, from an SEO perspective, you would see a lot of traffic increase, especially if you depending on the state of your site, earlier, if you weren't doing a lot of the technical things correct, and then you were doing a lot of the technical things correct, that's when you're going to see a big lift in your organic traffic and your discoverability right away. And so even in my own experience, I've kind of worked myself out of a job where you'll go in, you'll do a large project, you'll set things up straight. The person's very happy with you. They're getting the traffic they want. You've solved their SEO issue, and that's it, right? It is kind of that project-based thing. And so that third part too is, not only do you have the URLs for each location, but you're also adding content, you're optimizing those pages. All of these things are really important, and start to see, more of that exponential growth that you hope to see when you're investing in something like SEO. The problem I think we're at today is that for most people, they're already doing this stuff, or did this when they created their website. So if they engage with a good vendor, and if it's StoragePug or Storagely or someone that built them a nice website, set them up for success SEO wise, kind of crossed all the T's and set them up, that is 90% of what you need to do. and you've done a lot of that SEO, the most of it can be kind of worked on from there. I think when you get into the world of, okay, now what do I do for their SEO? Now what do I do for their SEO? I'm building backlinks, I'm making them blog posts, I'm doing these other, things. It's just diminishing returns on those level of services versus focusing on what might be more of a project-based work to get these things set up correctly and indexed well. And so that's kind of the conclusion I came to when I was looking at all this feedback I was hearing and what were people paying for ongoing versus what they should actually focus on, which was getting that site set up really well for success, and that's going to pay dividends for months to come. So I mean, that being said, it is once you get past that initial setup, if you're chasing rankings with new content and you're hoping that these backlinks and things will make a difference to I'm ranking 6, I need to be ranking 2, I need to keep climbing and chasing rankings. Even if you're seeing some success, it's always going to be a slow burn. I used to say as a consultant that SEO is a 401k. It's something you put in your investment and then you wait for it to kind of pay dividends later. And that is just not a good recipe for an industry like self-storage, where that buying cycle is not that complex and not that long. In fact, there's a stat on here from Sparefoot that says 64% of self-storage users, they seek storage within a week or less of needing it. So when they know they have that need, it's happening within a week that they're going to go out and start doing that search and start finding what it is they need. This isn't a month-long, 2-month, 3-month-long research project to find storage. I need it, I'm going online, and I'm going to do my search and find what's going to be the best fit. So that, if you're waiting on SEO to get you there, that whole time you're waiting to try to be visible, you're going to miss out on all those customers that could be already tenants and fill up your units and fill up your occupancy. So that sucks about SEO. It's just too slow. The other thing that's been it's more of the changes that have happened for Google is that number one spot is just not what it used to be. And when you have something like self-storage that has a high level of personalization and localization involved in the search results, it's even worse. So you could all go on right now and search for self-storage on Google. Every single one of you is going to have a different list, a different search result page. It'll have that same structure. You're going to have ads at the top. You're going to have map in the middle. You might have an AI answer in there. You might have other things going on. And then about halfway down the page, you might find that first result that would be called the number one spot. So they've moved number one halfway down, and they've made it so the number one, because your self-storage is what I would call a search term that deserves localized results, everyone's going to get a different number one. So it makes it hard to even track how am I ranking for every single thing. There is no true number one when it comes to these types of searches. You can see the traffic, you can see things like that from other tools, but all this effort and all this time and all these blog posts and link building fees and all these things to chase number one when it's halfway down the page and it's different for everybody, it doesn't seem worth it, or at least not deserving of such of an emphasis here. So that's another part that sucks. All of these things kind of get you stuck in this kind of never-ending, I just got to keep going, I got to keep doing SEO. And that's what when I'm at these shows or I'm talking to someone at a roundtable about SEO and paid ads, a lot of them just feel like they're stuck. I'm paying for backlinks, I'm paying for blogs, I don't know if it's working, I just feel like I have to keep doing it or else my SEO is gonna stop, it's gonna stop working. And the truth is too, especially with backlinks, I was at an agency that focused a lot on backlink building, and you have to be very careful with it. That is a very powerful signal. It is very much a part of the Google ranking algorithm. It looks at, again, not just what's on your site, but what are others saying about you. So if they detect anything that's unnatural or any kind of spamming going on, they have ways of tracking what is what they call a natural link profile and an unnatural link profile. And if you start to get into that space of, I have too many links out there that all say self-storage, Jefferson City, Missouri, and that's not how most people would link. Why do they have 50 of these when nobody else on the internet has this? They'll start to flag that, and at a best case is they just discount them so they do nothing. The worst case is you can actually get a warning from Google that says, we've detected you have an unnatural profile. You need to take those links down, or we're going to take you out of our index. And I've seen those messages come through. It's not a fun time. And so there's a little bit of risk there in terms of, if you're paying someone to link build, be careful that they're doing it in a way that isn't, against Google's guidelines. So it was frustrating to hear, right? And kind of what spurred this whole webinar of SEO Sucks was, why are you still doing this? Why are you still investing in this? Why are you putting so much emphasis on these types of SEO services that you're not sure what they are and if they're effective, and in some cases can borderline do the opposite? And what we heard was, our agency or our expert told us, if we don't constantly update things, then we're not going to stay competitive. If you stop doing this, if you stop link building or you stop blogging, your rankings are going to just tank. You're not going to get any of that good free traffic from Google. Or even if you switch to someone else, if you do one thing with us and something else with them, you're going to lose your SEO. And these are just honestly just kind of scare tactics to keep you engaged. There's only little granules of truth in some of those, right? And most of those apply to bigger industries that are more content driven, right? That some industries need a lot of that content generation to stay top of mind on big topics, software companies and services industries that have very long sales cycles that need to constantly engage and educate their audience, not just on the core search terms, but on like hundreds and thousands of keywords that they want to rank for that are all related to their product or service. Though that's where that kind of stuff applies, where you need large volumes of content. Like we were showing earlier, those keywords that we're all going after, it's the same set. And those are the ones that really matter for driving occupancy. So wanted to make sure, if you're feeling that kind of pressure, you're hearing those kind of messages, you can feel pretty confident that, that's not really the case. That's kind of what popped in our heads of the things that, hey, this is why SEO is different, and what sucks about it for self-storage, and the big challenges that are presented in this specific industry that may not be present for others. So what if I can't beat the REITs, if I can't show up organically, and even if I do, it's halfway down the page, but we all know search is important. How do we win? Well, you got to focus on those paid ad sections, win that PPC game, and focus on the website that you have, right? And if you're going to be paying people to come to that site, make sure you're targeting those that are, within a certain radius. You're really only focusing on the keywords that matter from a commercial intent. You're not bidding on keywords like packing tips or going after things that aren't, don't signal someone actually is in that buying mode. And that's the beauty of Google Ads, is you can set all those parameters, you can set all those settings up for every campaign, for each location. You can drive that person closer to the rental checkout process. You don't have to send them all to the homepage. You don't have to wait for them to find a blog and then find their location and then go to checkout. You can set up all of these things and align them really optimally to get them right to where they need to be and make that buying decision. So you can adjust all those things, not only within Google, but understanding the occupancy at each location is critical. So don't spend, don't be overspending on a facility that might have 90% occupancy. And that if that money is better spent on one location that has 45. So all of that shifting and adjusting is where AdRank comes in. That is why we exist and what we help our customers do. And this is just a kind of a snapshot of the product itself, but wanted to include this because there's really a critical metric that we use to determine, should I spend more or should I spend less? And the really cool thing about search is it's kind of an audience and market observation as well. There's a lot of human behavior that goes into this. What is the search volume? How are they clicking? Am I showing up? What do I have to offer? And you get to align all that. And it's the thing I like about why I've been in digital marketing for so long is I just really like this, playing this game, right? Which is understanding, who's out there searching within that radius of that market I'm trying to address, and what is the occupancy at my location. It's that supply and demand that you get to play with. So when we talk about, one of the key metrics we look at is called PPC ad shortfall, and that is showing you essentially how much are you missing out within that particular market. So if you're advertising within a certain mile radius of your facility, or maybe by zip code or city, Google will tell you, hey, your ad was not served during this 42% because you ran out of budget for that particular location. So that's where you can look at that. And if you have occupancy available, you'd want to adjust that up. So multiply that over 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 locations. Having all those numbers kind of put together is what can help you make, more informed decisions about where your money should go and where you have occupancy needs, and kind of match supply and demand for each one of your locations. So we have an ebook. We'll send this as part of the, kind of follow up here. And this is just kind of giving you some information about that methodology and the keywords you should be targeting and how we think about that game, because we believe that the Google ad game is a game you can win. It is a game where you can compete against the REITs. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to spend as much as them, because they're going to be doing more of a loose targeting, kind of looking at big areas and big budgets and multiple locations. But being more specific is a way you can win, and being more targeted with your approach, and being more limited with your keyword set is a way for you to not only you'll be competitive and be in that section of the search that matters to get clicks when people are doing those types of searches. I mentioned earlier about investing in your website too. If you're going to have traffic to your website, make sure it's kind of following a lot of best practices. And a big thing that I think we probably all know is the checkout process. Focus on that. Focus on understanding the parts of your checkout where it might be causing people to drop off or abandon. The speed of that checkout. Are you asking for too much information up front without getting payment? There's a lot of those best practices to look at that process and make sure it's got a good conversion-friendly rental design to kind of take that person through that process. Another piece of that is looking at attribution. So if you're going to be spending on all these digital programs, making sure that you're able to see, hey, am I able to justify this spend as people check out and become customers or leads? Am I able to justify that, hey, I know where these people came from, and I'm able to see are my ads working and where they're coming from? Let's go through a couple do's and don'ts here. I know I've thrown a lot of different things at you, but I think one of the big don'ts, I think, is just avoid all that kind of generating of blog content, especially if you're doing just really thin, generic blog posts just because you think that's something you need to do. it's not helping you. It's just kind of a waste of time. Focus that content on those local pages. So if you have individual pages for each location, focus content production on beefing up those pages, making the content unique to each one of those locations. Be concerned with your Google My Business profile. Probably heard that before. Make sure it's complete, it's set up, it's accurate, it's up to date. If you have new pictures or new things about your facility, put it up there. All those things matter, especially if people are maybe drive by, they go on their computer and Google your brand. They want to learn all that information. That's where that type of stuff can show up on Google search results. And focus your content on the website that helps answer people's questions, that make it easier for them to kind of go from I'm curious about your facility to yep, I'm ready to move in. So here's kind of an example of if you had kind of a city and state facility, what we mean by adding additional content. Imagine this page has kind of the inventory as well and the ability to kind of see everything available. But don't just stop there. Add additional pieces of information that are specific to that. If the local slang is, they don't say Panama City Beach, they say PCB, make sure that's on your page. What is unique about this? Do you have boat and RV? Do you have climate control? Do you have maybe directions that tell people where it is? All those things are beneficial information, not only for users, but Google looks at that stuff as well and knows, okay, this is my page that I should deliver within that specific place. We always get a lot of questions about Google reviews. Do they matter? Absolutely, and they matter for more than just SEO. Reputation management is something that I would recommend. It's like an ongoing thing. You're always going to be getting positive, maybe some negative reviews, making sure that you have systems in place to ask your happy customers to go give you positive reviews, and that you're responding to some of those negative ones and trying to, do some damage control in there. It does matter for Google as well. They consider these as part of their, those 200 ranking factors they're looking at. The quality of them, the number of them, all of those things contribute to just your overall health and ability to show up well in Google. So my message here is that don't walk away from this and think I should stop doing anything to do with SEO. I should just ignore it. I don't think that's the main message. I was hopefully trying to paint the picture that there are really beneficial things that SEO can do for you, especially when you treat it like a project. Where it gets dangerous is when you think of it as something you have to sign up for and have to be doing all the time, or else it's gonna tank, or it's gonna be hurt, or you have to do backlinks, you have to always be blogging. Those are the types of things that may apply to other industries and may apply to other types of businesses. I just don't think that it's worth the squeeze when it comes to self-storage. So kind of know what you're getting. If you have some sort of monthly thing, make sure that it's stuff that either it's technical in nature, or they're changing the things about your site, or adding content to the local pages, really focusing on the things that will move the needle versus things that maybe just are too slow and aren't beneficial overall. So as you're building out sites, as you're building out new things on your website, know that SEO is important. Make sure you're checking as many boxes as you can as part of those factors. But it's just not a one-size-fits-all tactic. There are a lot of things you can do in the realm of SEO. That doesn't mean all of them you should be doing. So focus on those location pages, focus on winning that paid search game and being as optimal as you can there. Focus on improving your website and conversion so that it's that kind of best-in-class experience. And make sure you have some of the free tools in place. I mentioned SEMrush earlier. You can get competitive intelligence there. I think even some free trials to check out. You can put in really any website and see what kind of content they have that's driving traffic, what keywords they're ranking for, what they're paying for, things like that. Google Analytics is a free tool. Most of you probably have it installed on your website. Make sure you have access to that so you can see all the different ways people are discovering your site. And then another one is called Google Search Console. That one is a little bit more SEO focused. That's where you'll be able to submit your sitemaps, get a feel of what Google likes in terms of like your page performance, and kind of give you some information about the keywords that are driving traffic to your site and maybe some other technical issues that might be hurting you. So those are 2 free things that you can set up that Google gives you. Make sure you have access to those or have those set up. That'll really help kind of answer some of these kind of questions with data and everything like that. Awesome. Let's open up and see if we have any questions or comments there. I hope you found that useful. Again, trying to educate and understand, what is appropriate to do SEO wise and what are some of the other things to focus on.
Hey, Mitch, I have one question here. You kind of were just touching on at the end there with free tools. In all the years that you were an SEO consultant, what was your favorite tool, either paid or free, that you had access to? What was your number one tool that you worked with?
I think if I'm looking at data from Google, it's Google Search Console. That's where you can really get the source of truth of things. That is Google indexing all my pages, what are the actual that's where you can actually get keyword data from Google as well. In Google Analytics, they block individual keywords, but in Google Search Console, you can see the amount of traffic coming to the individual keywords and the top pages. So that's kind of like the central control room for anything organic search. And so I've always liked that one. But SEMrush or SEMrush is my favorite because you feel like you're able to get into competitors and see some of the information that might not be as obvious for you. I see another question about a list of tools. We're going to send out that list as part of our follow-up. So that's a good question there.
And a couple of ebooks as well.
Correct.
Hey, Mitch, someone's asking about pricing. If they want to go down the road of having an SEO ongoing contract, any idea on pricing? Hey, do you have any stories you can tell about what you've seen other e-commerce brands pay, even from your past? So maybe just
so like I was mentioning earlier, it is SEO is a tough thing because it requires kind of a lot of knowledge, and it's not something that's just like this is exactly what you do and you just kind of churn that out. So that usually means it's a person that has to do it. Is usually manual processes, right? Either someone has to go out and add that content or do the analysis to figure out where to go. So, if you have someone that's more experienced, that person's going to be an hourly rate between $75 and $225 an hour. Someone that has, 15, 20 years experience is going to be more like $175 to $200 an hour. And so if they're putting in 4 hours a week or 4 hours a month to kind of give you reports and do these types of things and tell you where to focus, you can see how that starts to add up. And that's the problem. It is a very much a human process, right? We have to be guessing what we think Google likes, and we have to kind of be playing that game and understanding search terms and where you have gaps. All of that is, can get pretty expensive. If it's lower than that, then you should be a little more suspicious that how are they, maybe I'm getting someone really junior and they're just going out and running some sort of process that they do for everybody else. And I've been at agencies like that where they're just kind of churning out things, and that's where you can start to get a little bit in that spammy area. Paying someone to come in and do like an audit, that can be more of a project based. That can be a couple $1,000s for them to spend that time to kind of say, hey, I've looked at your site, I've done a deep dive, go fix all these things, and that's going to help. What you're saying, Jason, I've been at I had one customer that was paying the agency I was at $100,000 a month and it was worth it for them. They were a very large e-commerce brand, and so they had over 8 million different pages on their site. There was all kinds of work being done. We were looking at their site daily and doing all kinds of technical work and improving site speed, and had a lot of developers and designers and things like that. So but you'd always find things. The example I always used was they had a page on their site that they called women's athleisure wear, and that was the name of their page. And they said, well, we're not showing, this page doesn't show up at all in Google. And what we found was, well, that's because people don't search for athleisure wear, they search for yoga pants. So let's change the name of that page to yoga pants and have content about yoga pants. And sure enough, that's what got them starting to rank and get page, a lot of traffic to that page. So that kind of stuff, if you did that, over a very large site, those like tweaks and fixes and things work. But for something like self-storage, where there's only so much you can do to kind of add those pages in there, then it's just really diminishing returns on that kind of investment. Yeah, okay, so near me search, that's an interesting one too. That is one of the top ways people still search, even though they, Google's gonna deliver the results near you for a search like self-storage. I've even seen companies that name themselves with the word near me in it because they think that's gonna help kind of them showing up. All of that is treated very much the same. Whether you use the word near me or not on your pages, Google has seen through all that. That's where all that machine learning and all the things that Google has done to improve, they understand what that means. And so when you're searching for something like self-storage, it's almost always going to deliver you a near me kind of result where it's showing you the local, there's localization involved in those results.
There's a comment or question about SEO and paid ads. Are they interconnected, intertwined, related? Does Google connect them?
That is a bit of a conspiracy that people have, and I do not subscribe to it. They are similar in that it is keyword based, right? And that they share the same search result is always going to be a combination of Google and or paid ads and non-paid listings. But there is no correlation between if you start paying for ads, your SEO will improve, or if you stop paying for ads, your SEO will go down. It's very much a separation of church and state there. At least that's what Google tells us. And there are others that have run experiments that suggest otherwise, but I've never seen that happen in all my, combinations of different things, but they are very much a separate algorithm. They're a separate way that they serve those results. It's based on that auction and who's bidding, outbidding, who deserves to rank versus not. The paid algorithm and the organic algorithm are completely separate. Yeah, there's a question here about the local pack results. So a lot of that has to do with the map listings too. Like, how does Google know who to put in the map listing? So, and you're right, like if you're not down, even if you get that number one, you're going to be below the map. So does SEO help you get in the map? The answer is yes. All those kind of same, it's a different set of factors because location is part of that too. And some of those, even those map listings now have a lot of positions that are sponsored and paid. So you can pay to even be in the map listing. That's part of Google running a Google ad as well, being at the top of the list. But that's where things like reviews, web content that's specific to the location, all the emphasis you're putting on that local page is all going to send positive signals to help you show up correctly in the map results and maybe outrank somebody that hasn't checked a lot of those boxes or has no reviews or no good reviews. So SEO does impact that kind of local pack results and the map listing results. Awesome. I think those were most of it. If you have any questions about search marketing, SEO, want to see a demo of AdRank, want to just have questions about websites, anything like that, we're happy to have those conversations. We're here to help educate, and hopefully we'll see some of you all at some upcoming shows, upcoming roundtables, and keep this discussion going.